This thing is giving me fits, but it looks like a desk. I'm getting there. I'm Tom Johnson, Thomas Johnson Antique Furniture Restoration in Gorham, Maine. And I'm going to fix a snack. That's better. You know, this reminds me of two of my favorite projects. Let's take a look. These are two knives, two cheese slicers we found at a flea market. Really nice examples of mid-century design. They were designed for Dansk by Toren, Vivian Toren Bülow Hube, a Swedish master silversmith. The round handles fit into a corresponding hollowed out part on a cutting board to make a set. These handles are all here. They're not in horrible shape, except I suspect they've been run through a dishwasher many times. They're completely dried out and need to be refinished. One of the handles, though, has a bad burn mark, and we're going to have to deal with that. So the first thing I want to do is take care of this burnt handle. I think what I want to do is chisel out that burnt part. And I've got some nice tight grained teak here that if I can get it in there correctly, it ought to match pretty well. Okay, I'm getting down to good wood here, but I think I want to keep going until all the burn part is gone. It's still a little punky. Interesting, there seems to be a void here. I guess what I also seem to be coming into what might be a rivet too. I'm a little unsure. I think I'll proceed. I'm a little unsure about that rivet especially. I'll have to proceed carefully. The rivet doesn't seem to be metal, it seems to be wood. And I'm thinking that I'm going to fill that void rather than keep cutting. I need to go a little bit further to get rid of the burn on that side of it, but once that's done, I think I'll just fill it and then glue in my plug. Okay, so now I'll set my timer for 5 minutes. I want to chisel that before it's completely hard. I'll try it in about 5 minutes. In the meantime, I can start getting I've got to orient this piece of wood and cut it so that it fits in there. Okay, so let me chisel that. Alright, now back to my piece I'm going to put in there. Good. It's a little bit wide. I'm not sure about my grain orientation. I think I have to cut another piece. I don't think my grain is exactly right. Yeah, I like this orientation better. I think if I need to square up my sides on the sander, but then I think I'll have it. think I've got this pretty well now. I've been back and forth to the sander a half a dozen times, taking off so little each time. I think it fits pretty well, but the last time I was fitting it, a little chip came up, and I'm going to glue that down first. You know, while I'm struggling to get this piece back where it belongs, I began to realize that right next to it, there's more chip out that I didn't notice before. I think that what I've got to do now, with that chipping right there, I've got to redo this whole thing. I got to bring my cut back to here. And then cut a wider piece to fit in there. I've been back and forth to the sander a few times, making minor adjustments, but I think it's good. I think it's really tight. I'm going to go ahead and glue it down. I still have a little bit of chipping in that same area, but I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm going to glue this down. Yeah, maybe I'll have to fill it a little bit. We'll see. I'm going to use waterproof glue because this is a kitchen utensil, so it's bound to come in contact with water. Okay, I'll let that dry overnight, and tomorrow we'll see what we got. Okay, let's do it. The toughest thing about this job is that as I shape this down, I cannot hit the metal, not even once. Okay, now I'll switch to sandpaper. Start with some 60 grit. Okay, so now I'm ready to switch to 100 grit. But I think first I'm going to tape off this metal around the wood as a visual aid, and it won't really prevent damage, but it might give me a little bit of a grace warning as I sand close to these edges. So I'm going to sand this with 100. Then 150, then 220. I've got to do the other side. I also have to do the other 3 utensils. After I've done that, we'll get back to, we'll see how the color of my patch matches the rest of the wood and what, if anything, we're going to do about it. Okay, I've got all 4 utensils sanded down to 220. So now I'm going to remove the tape and apply the first coat. I'm going to brush on the first coat and keep it wet for a while so it'll really soak in, but then I will just wipe this off. I'm not trying to build up a shiny coat. My patch is a little lighter. When I sanded this wood, all of them turned a little darker, but that's okay. If anything, I want my patch to be lighter. I'll stain it a little bit more after the first coat. I'm not worried about finish getting on the metal. I'll wipe it with a little bit of paint thinner now while I'm watching these handles and wetting the wood out wherever I see it drying. So as I see it drying and soaking in, like here on the end grain, I'm just going to add more finish. I'll do this for 15 or 20 minutes, keep it wet. Okay, this is, I've been keeping it wet, but it's soaked in so well I don't really need to wipe off the wood. I'm just going to wipe off the metal again one more time, and that'll be it for today. Okay, I've let these dry overnight, but now I've got to address the issue of the color of my patch. I'm disappointed how light it is. On the other hand, if I went to redo it, I don't have any teak that dark either. It's more like the color of walnut. The first thing I'm going to do is I've sanded up a piece of teak, and I'm going to test my stains to get this color. Then I'm going to clean this down with lacquer thinner, and when it dries I'm going to sand it again with 220. Then I'll stain my patch and give it another coat of oil. Okay, now I'm going to let this dry for a while, and then I may sand around this bottom edge a little bit. I just went over just a tad. I'll let this dry for about an hour. I'm going to put some oil on it. I might have to put a little more stain right there. I've let this coat dry overnight. It's looking good. I'm going to put a little more color in this one little spot right here. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll apply a second coat, and I think the final coat, to all the handles. Now with this coat, I'm going to wet sand with 600 paper using the oil. Now this side, with my patch, I'm not going to sand. And now I'm just wiping them just gently with this paper towel. Alright, there are your 4 torn utensils by Dansk. Really 2 pairs. A spreader and a cheese slicer. You know, when they came in, the wood looked terrible. It looked like they'd been run through a dishwasher. Please don't put wooden utensils, wooden handles, or knives in your dishwasher. I had to patch that one that was burned really badly. I think it looks pretty good. Perfect. A lot of commenters wanted to know why I didn't just replace that knife handle. But I guess I'm just too determined to keep things as original as possible. And besides, making a new handle would be no picnic either. I like this video because I don't talk very much, but it shows every detail of a very interesting project. And I really like the bar cabinet that you'll see at the end of the video. These are the Tambour doors of a mid-century modern rosewood bar cabinet. And you'll see the entire cabinet when I reinstall these in the customer's home. I don't know why they're called Tambour doors, except the word tambour always involves things that are round, think like a tambourine, for instance. But what's happened here is the material has deteriorated and needs to be replaced. The first thing I'm going to do is get a sheet of MDF, that's medium density fiberboard. I want to cut a piece to create a flat surface to do this work on. I'm going to cover this with wax paper to keep glue off of it. I got to get this handle off. I've got to pry this board off. And actually, before I pry this board off, I'm going to mill up the boards to hold this into place. And I'll rabbet out those boards to accommodate the tongues on the door. Okay, I'm going to screw these down, but I've got to get this end board off first. Yeah, this keeper was glued down. That's unusual in my experience. So I was getting a little tired of scraping it. I tried a little heat with the heat gun, but that really didn't seem to do too much. So what I've done here is I've laid a wet towel on the fabric just for 5 minutes. Yeah, the water didn't really seem to want to penetrate this much, but as you can see, some of it's ripping up anyway. I'm not sure, I don't think the water had anything to do with that. I don't want to soak it down because it'll just make a big mess, and the other side of these is finished and water would creep down.
This is a heavy linen fabric we call mattress ticking. I had also cut a second piece of MDF covered with wax paper that will fit in here on top of the fabric. I just want to, it's not absolutely necessary to do this, but I want to ensure that this is flat. You can use any type of water-soluble glue. Okay, I'll let that dry overnight. Well, okay, let's see what we got. All right, this went down nice and flat. Just a quick note about the gloves I've been wearing. I anticipate I'd get comments on that, just like people used to comment all the time on the bandages I had on my fingers. You know, there's a high of 22 degrees today. For my metric fans, that's -5. Humidity is 25–30%. And the cold shop, the cold tools, was just killing the skin on my hands. So as much as I can, I'm keeping these gloves on, moisturize my hands. I'll show you. Just trying to keep them that way. Okay, let this dry overnight. On the second door, I actually did a much better job of cutting the fabric and fitting it here. This is a little bit off, so I'm going to trim up these edges a bit. Alright, these are the boards that go on the inside of the doors, to which right on the inside center edge. I've got to clean them down and reattach them. Well, this glue just does not want to scrape off. I tried the heat, really seemed to have no effect, which was my experience on the tambours themselves, which ultimately didn't matter. But what I've done here is soaked a little vinegar on it, and that seems to be working fine. Okay, let's see what we got. Oh yeah, this is great. Okay, I've got to reinstall these strips on the inside of the doors. They were originally glued and nailed, but I'm going to screw them down. Okay, now I will get my kit and go to the customer's house to install these. Okay, here I am in the customer's home. Got a well-stocked cabinet here. We took the doors out from the front, but they were in pieces. I'm not sure if they're going to go back in or not. We're going to find out. The first thing I'm going to do is vacuum these tracks, just to get any dust or anything out of there. And now I'll wax these tracks as best I can. I really can't get to in the back or anything. And I'll also wax the doors, these tongues, if you will, that go in the slot. So this opening of the cabinet is not a perfect square. The top and bottom are curved. So there's a much larger dimension here in the center than there.
we were able to pull them out through the center, but they were in pieces. So let's see if it'll go back now that it's all together. This is great. One down. Now I got to do the other one the same way, but I don't have this space available to me. I'm not sure how this is going to work. Oh, I just realized this was kind of stuck there. Something was holding it up, but obviously it opens all the way. And so now I have the room to do this. All right, now I'm going to go over the cabinet with my orange oil beeswax polish. So there you have it. This is a really nice mid-century modern rosewood bar cabinet made in the 1960s by Mobler. And it was fine, except the fabric had deteriorated on the back of these tambours. And now it's fine. I spent about 8 hours on this job. That includes pickup and delivery. And these are the tools I used. I think it looks pretty good.